Hi everyone, welcome to the Whiteleyverse with me, Connor Whiteley, for another daily short story. Now, before I start today's story, please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you want to buy this short story and any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers and at your local bookstore and local library if you requested, and you can order paperback copies from Amazon. Now, here's today's short story. I hope you enjoyed just as much as I did writing it.
Protection through fire. Olivia Cotton couldn't bloody believe how hot, sticky and disgusting she felt as she sat at her small kitchen table. She normally liked the wonderfully smooth, exotic and expensive wooden chairs she had imported from Asia, but today they were simply awful. The extreme heat had caused the wood to twist and warp, and she hated the damn things. The awful chair felt uncomfortable, warm, and pieces of wood stuck into her body at all angles. She just wanted to finish her piping hot mug of coffee, just like she did every single morning without fail, and crack on with her day. Olivia flicked through the wide range of colorful, glossy magazines on her dining table. They actually looked good set against its warped wooden surface, and the colors contrasted each other rather well. Most of the magazines were gossip columns her teenager daughters, Amy and Sasha, loved talking about, until late at night between themselves and their friends. Olivia didn't really understand the appeal, but her sweet, beautiful girls were happy, so that's all she cared about. Olivia wiped a large drop of sweat off her forehead. She had told her damn husband Ben that he needed to bring the fans down from the loft, but did he listen? No. The bloody idiot never did, and now she was paying for it. Ben was probably in his nice, air-conditioned corner office at his high-price law firm, and she was stuck here sweating. She was so going to punish him later on. She just had no idea how. Olivia swirled her piping hot coffee in her hands, hating the awful warmth that pulsed into her body. She didn't want heat, she needed something to cool her down. The bitter, rich aroma of perfectly roasted coffee filled her senses, and she supposed things could have been worse. She still had the entire day to visit her parents at the care home, before she did her volunteering shift reading to the elderly. Then she could come home, help her girls with their homework before helping Ben with his speech for tomorrow's so-called big presentation. It was going to be a busy day, but Olivia loved it. She loved helping people, doing good and helping to make the world a better place. A picture smashed off the wall. Olivia jerked up and went across her large dining room, over to the broken family picture that had fallen off a large wooden beam near her French patio doors. She couldn't believe it had expanded and cracked this morning. The dam builder, Ben, and her own father had warned her about getting a wooden doorframe instead of a plastic one, but she had really liked how artistic, unique and rustic it made her home look. Now she knew she was going to pay for it. Someone knocked on the door. Olivia rolled her eyes. All she wanted was to have a nice relaxing morning coffee before she went to the care home on her day off. She didn't need endless distractions, especially on a day as hot as this one. She forced her way through the intense, draining, disgusting heat into the living room, where she noticed another 2 photos had fallen down, and a pack of Ben's magazines covered the floor. Olivia coughed at the bitter aroma of Ben's uneaten burnt toast that she still hadn't put in the dishwasher, and she opened the front door. Hints of smoke, weed and bonfire filled the boiling hot air, as Olivia stepped out into the wall of heat. She wasn't expecting to see 3 tall young men in black business suits. The 3 men only frowned at her, and gave her a sheet of paper. She opened it. "This is a statement saying you're 2 days from your house being repossessed," one of the men said, but they all looked the same, so she didn't know who. Olivia shook her head. This couldn't be happening. Her money might have been for holidays and paying the food bills, but Ben always paid the bills on time. Surely. She read the formal letter over and over, and the businessmen were right. Ben hadn't paid the rent for 4 months, and they had already served 3 warning letters and emailed Ben twice. Olivia wanted to doubt the men, doubt what was happening, but it was all possible. Way too possible, because she never ever opened Ben's letters. It wasn't her business and she loved Ben, so she would always trust him. How much? Olivia asked. She noticed each of the men looked at each other and frowned, and it was like they were silently trying to work out who was going to tell her. How much? Olivia asked, wiping the sweat from her forehead. 100,000, the man said closest to her. Olivia nodded, thanked them, and just shook her head as she closed the door. She hated how her clothes stuck to her skin with a thin layer of sweat bonding it together. She flat out didn't want to believe Ben hadn't been paying the bills, but if she was really honest with herself, then Ben could have done this all. He had been quieter lately, he had been working a lot later, and he had been happier at home. Yet he hadn't seen the girls lately, he hadn't been a father lately, and he hadn't been a good husband lately either. Olivia had wanted to go out, have date nights and talk to him about everything and nothing. He hadn't wanted to do any of it. Olivia felt against the burning hot metal door, as she realized what was truly going on here. Her husband was seeing another woman. Olivia had absolutely no idea why she wore the disgusting hot, sticky yellow rubber gloves that stupid Ben had brought her as a joke a few years ago. She went into his private office, and she just had to know what the hell was going on here. The small box room of an office smelt damp, stuffy, and way too warm that seemed to make the air burn her lungs with every breath. Olivia just wanted to be done, she wanted to know the truth, and she wanted to make sure she could keep her precious girls safe. Olivia rather liked the floor-to-ceiling bookcase against the wall to her left, filled with various legal textbooks in black, blue and red leather bindings. Olivia wasn't a fan of the newspaper clippings. She really hoped her husband wasn't trying to solve an unsolved murder or something. She didn't want a killer coming after him. Then she realized they were simply clippings of his high-profile wins against other big companies. He was a corporate lawyer by trade, and hearing what other companies did to each other and their workers only made her hate them even more. Big companies certainly weren't good people. Olivia went to the right of the office, and ignored the beautiful view of their large garden with entire beds of roses, tulips and lilies. And she turned on the computer that wasn't password protected or anything. She stopped herself for a moment because her skin itched in sweat, and at the memory of how angry, rageful, and so close to hitting her Ben had been when she had come here in to clean 5 years ago. She had never done it again, and she didn't want to be here now, but she still couldn't afford to lose the house, especially for the sake of the girls. The air seemed to get even hotter, as the memory of Ben threatening her, shouting at her, and motioning what he was going to do. But Olivia took a calming hot breath, and she smiled. She was going to move heaven and earth to make sure her girls were not homeless. She was not being a failure of a mother, a failure of a protector, and a failure as a part-time housewife. Olivia had worked way too much on this house, from the kitchen, to the garden to the loft, to lose it. She had to find a way to keep it, there was no other choice. Access emails, Olivia said, knowing the computer responded to voice commands. A moment later Ben's emails appeared on the screen, and it took her a few moments to understand what she was looking at. She had expected to see the emails from companies demanding bill payments, work emails and silly promotions emails from companies no one signed up for, but they still managed to get your email address. None of that was on this account. Instead, Olivia could only see emails from 2 addresses. One was a website with stocks and purchases of something she didn't know, and the second address belonged to a woman's name. Olivia clicked on the woman's email address, and cocked her head as she realized these weren't flirty emails. Ben and this woman Sandra weren't having an affair. Ben was buying weapons and porn, and a ton more porn. Olivia read more and more, and her stomach tightened into a painful knot. It seemed that Ben was buying weapons for himself. He was sending money to a company so they could buy weapons for themselves in exchange for shitloads of rather hardcore porn. No wonder Ben hadn't wanted to do anything with her lately. She couldn't compete with this content. And even worse, it was generated by artificial intelligence, so Olivia guessed that whatever situation or type of porn Ben wanted, Sandra could create it for him. That's why he kept spending so much money with Sandra, because she could give him the most extreme and perfect and mind-blowing experience in his life. Olivia hated it, as her stomach twisted into a painful knot, sweat made her hair clump together and she felt so dirty. She kept reading because she wanted to find out more about these weapons, and that's when her life changed forever. The weapons were never really mentioned in the emails, except from one time when Sandra was making fun of Ben. She asked him how he felt about his money funding pro-Russian terrorists in former Soviet states. Ben was fine with it, as long as she kept giving him what he wanted. The porn production had only increased after that email, and Ben had only increased his money more and more. Olivia forwarded the emails to herself, but she covered her tracks, made sure everything was exactly as it was before she had come in, and she went to leave the office. But she couldn't. She couldn't leave Ben to live his life like this. This wasn't right, fair or just. She didn't really care about the porn addiction because he could get help, they could talk and they could go to couples therapy. The weapons were another matter. She had studied history, politics and international relations at university to master's level. Her mother had been a news reporter during the fall of the Soviet Union, and her father had lost 3 friends because of Russia. And her husband was helping their supporters. That was something she couldn't allow to stand, and Olivia just wanted Ben to pay more than anything. He had already failed her with fans, failed her to clean up his burnt toast, and now they were going to lose the house because of his porn addiction. And tons of innocent people were going to die because of these weapons. Ben had to pay, suffer and maybe die. Olivia just had no idea what to do. No idea at all. Olivia threw yet another damn letter on her warped dining table, as the electric and gas companies were going to cut her off in 3 days, because Ben still hadn't paid the bills. She paced around the dining room despite the damn foul heat that made her feel like she was walking through a desert. Her mouth was bone dry, her skin itched from sweat, and she simply couldn't do this anymore. Olivia supposed her husband would have kept the gas and electric letters from her too. She was normally seeing her parents about now, and her husband would be back around 2 p.m. before she got home, but she wasn't playing his games today. She had found something, and now she had to make some decisions. Everything was falling apart. Olivia just looked at the ham and cheese sandwich she had made herself last night, with rich, thick pesto and refreshing mint, that now sat on her dining table. She had wanted to make sure she had some lunch to take to the care home with her, but now it was hot, sticky and ugly. That sandwich was the last thing she wanted to eat, even though it made the house smell sensational. She flat out loved pesto and mint mixed together. Olivia wasn't sure what she could do. She couldn't get over £100,000 in the next 2 days, as well as the gas and electric money. She didn't have even a fraction of that in her bank or savings account, and she was certain Ben didn't have any savings. Not after the porn discovery. They had no savings or money at all. Olivia supposed she could take out a loan, but the only companies that would give her that much money within 2 days would have such extreme interest rates. She would take out $100,000 and be paying back $500,000 easily. Even then, those rip-off companies probably wouldn't let her take out $100,000. That would be way too much for any company, legal at least, to cough up to her of all people. A very unremarkable woman, with a beyond-average credit history. That was another dead end. Olivia looked around at her house. She liked how large it was, even if it was a little stuffy, boiling and warped today. It was like a greenhouse, and she felt like a tomato baking under the grill, but she liked her house anyway. But what if she didn't have the house anymore? Olivia stood up and paced around the table. She coughed at the overwhelming aroma of pesto and mint in the air, but she wasn't sure she wanted the house anymore. What if something happened to the house? She had always insisted on having good insurance, good coverage and good policies with the top companies, just in case something had happened. She could burn down the house and make sure the insurance money covered it. The insurance company would give them a new place to live for a few nights, then she could stay at her parents', and then she could buy a brand new house for her girls. The girls could replace all their own stuff with the insurance money, and everything would be perfect. But Ben would still be alive. The man that had cost her everything. The man that had got her in this situation. And the man that would happily see her and her girls without a home, electric or gas. He didn't deserve to be a part of their new life. In fact, he didn't deserve anything at all. She couldn't divorce him, because Ben's firm had some of the best divorce lawyers in the UK, and she would be burnt alive. Hell, she might even lose the girls. Olivia shook her head. She couldn't have that. She had to protect her girls, she couldn't lose them. She was going to protect them, no matter what. Olivia looked at her small golden wedding ring. She had loved the ring when Ben had first proposed. She'd loved that warm sunny night in the Caribbean where he had told her she was the most important girl in the world, and she was the one. She took off the ring and threw it. And as the door unlocked and Ben walked in, Olivia was determined to be the one to end him. "Why are you home, honey?" Olivia just froze as Ben stood in front of her. She really liked how tall, manly and handsome he looked in his tight-fitting black business suit, like the men from earlier. His handsome face was a mixture of aging and the striking model-like appearance of his youth, but he was grinning at her. He was grinning like he had never ever grinned at her before. Olivia went to gesture they should sit down on the cream sofas right next to her, but she didn't want to be pinned down to a location. Something was wrong, and she wanted to be able to move and be free and run like hell. Olivia felt dizzy and faint, as stupid Ben had allowed the extreme heat of outside to pour into the house. It was so damn hot, so damn overwhelming, and even breathing was painful. I asked, Ben said, "Why are you home?" Olivia opened her mouth to answer, but she closed it. Ben was angry. He wasn't his normal self and he was tense. The Ben she had loved and married was never like that. "Answer me," Ben shouted. Olivia noticed Ben had stopped looking at her, and she realized she was holding the letter from the electric and gas companies in her hand. "You touched my letters," Ben said, his voice cold and dangerous. Olivia took a step closer, forcing herself through the sheer wall of heat between them. "You only came home to watch more porn and armed terrorists," Olivia said. Ben laughed. "It doesn't matter why I'm home. You don't open my letters." Olivia passed him the letters. "You haven't paid the bills in months?" Ben ripped up the letters and sat on the cream sofa, taking his shoes off. Olivia folded her arms, and she couldn't believe this was what their lives had come to. All Ben was interested in was porn, work, and even more porn. He didn't care about her, the girls, and making sure they had a great future that included having a home. He didn't deserve her, but she couldn't divorce him because he would ruin her. She was alone, trapped, and she had to protect her girls. Ben got up and kicked his shoes across the room so they were messed up, and knocked over another pile of his stupid magazines. "I cleaned that yesterday." "You better clean it again," Ben said, going straight upstairs into his office, unbuttoning his trousers as he went. Olivia laughed. She was going to make him pay. As soon as she heard his office door slam, she went upstairs into her girls' bedrooms. She coughed at the sheer overwhelming hints of flora, sweet toffee and roses that choked the air from her girls' obsession with perfumes. She hated how their drawers and hardwood wardrobes had warped so much in the heat, she could barely open them. Still, Olivia managed to pull out some of their favorite clothes. Olivia put them in a small rucksack along with some overpowering perfume, books and their laptops. The laptops had cost her so much money, she would rather die than allow them to get burnt. As soon as the thought entered her mind, Olivia stopped and smiled. She really was going to burn this all to the ground. She didn't want to, she really didn't. Instead, she only wanted to get the insurance money so her daughters could have a future. A future that the bastard Ben had denied them, so he was going to die too. Olivia didn't really bother packing a bag for herself, because she didn't matter. The focus had to be on the girls and making sure they were okay. Olivia threw the rucksacks into the boot of her car, and she went back inside, grabbing the gas lighter fluid Ben kept in the cupboard under the stairs. She splashed it about on the sofa and floor of the living room, and then she went to her real target. Olivia stopped outside and heard a quiet thumping, probably from Ben's high-powered headphones pounding his ears with artificial intelligence porn. Or he was pounding his manhood with his fist. Or maybe even both. That was disgusting. Olivia partly wanted to scream and shout to see if he could hear her, but she didn't dare. Instead, Olivia poured the remainder of the fluid onto the floor right outside the door, and she was surprised just how big the container was. In reality, it probably only took a few seconds, but to Olivia it felt like a lifetime. Then Olivia laughed as she went downstairs, took out the batteries to the smoke alarm in the living room, and then did the same for the alarm at the top of the stairs. She placed both batteries in front of the door to Ben's office. "I'll protect my daughters," Olivia said, taking out a lighter. She lit up the fluid-filled carpet, and watched as the pretty cleansing red, blue and green flames danced over the carpet and grew stronger and stronger. The batteries exploded, and as Olivia went down the stairs she cringed as she heard Ben pound his manhood harder and harder. Almost as if he was enjoying it more than ever. Olivia simply drove away to pick up her girls, and hopefully start her new life without Ben. But at least her beautiful, sweet girls would have a home, a future, and a mother that loved them more than anything else in the world. Detective Bob Smith got out of his police car, and just stared at Olivia Cotton, as she sat there behind the steering wheel in front of him. She looked so cold, deranged, and like she was high as a kite on fear or maybe even an illegal drug. He was glad the small narrow street he had chased her to was empty. They didn't have cars on the driveways, and all the dirty white semi-detached houses were empty from the look of them. Even the front gardens looked a little dead and scorched with their yellow grass and bent-over trees. Bob swiped the sweat off his brow. It was so damn hot, sticky, and he hated weather like this, but at least it was the evening now, so hopefully the temperature would die down sooner rather than later. Bob couldn't believe what he had found at the Cotton house only a few hours later. That poor husband had been cooked alive. He had been clawing at the door, but he couldn't escape, and there were weird Photoshop pictures on the walls that had barely managed to survive the fire. More of the house was a complete and utter ruin, but some photos had survived the blaze. Bob was never going to forget how Olivia had Photoshopped herself in random family photos, so it looked like she had a family. He had seen some of the photos online, and even now the thought just made him shiver. He had contacted Olivia's doctor, and she was infertile, and he had been wanting to put her on medication for depression and psychosis, but Olivia had refused. The doctor wasn't surprised this had happened, but Bob still hated it all the same. "Get out of the car. Put your hands on the hood," Bob said, going over to the car. Olivia got out, but she kept looking at the back seats and she was mouthing words. Like there actually were teenage girls in the back, and she was trying to comfort them. Bob got out his handcuffs, and he just couldn't understand why Olivia was muttering about her precious girls over and over. Like she had only wanted to give them a good life, but they weren't real in the first place. "Why did you do this?" Bob asked. "Because," Olivia said, laughing, "my husband was going to make me homeless and ruin my girls' lives. I didn't want that for them. I didn't want them to be homeless." "Mrs. Cotton, you don't have any girls. You aren't a mother." "Liar." Bob gripped her tight as Olivia tried to run away and scream and cry for her girls to come to her, their mother. But no one came, no one responded, no one was ever going to come. Bob supported Olivia, as he took her back over to his police car, and placed her in the back. She was crying her eyes out, and maybe she was finally starting to understand exactly what she had done to herself, her husband and the rest of her life. She had burnt her life away for nothing. Bob started to drive away down the narrow, empty road. The rich stink of the vanilla latte clung to the air, but it didn't have the same sweetness as before, and it certainly didn't make him smile. He had seen a lot of crime, murders and arson in his decades, but he had a feeling he was always going to remember this one because it was so weird, creepy and bizarre. But at least Olivia Cotton would never ever see the light of day ever again, and she would never have to provide so-called protection through fire ever again.
Welcome back everyone, it's me again, Connor Whiteley. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's story, because I flat out love writing, creating stories and sharing them with you. If you really enjoyed today's story, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content, and the engagement really helps the Whiteleyverse with the YouTube algorithms. And if you want to buy this short story or any of my other fiction, then they're available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get them from your local library if you requested, and you can order the paperback copies from Amazon, your local bookstore or local library if you request it. Lastly, if you want to support the channel on a one-off basis, then you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Connor Whiteley. Also, if you know anyone who would enjoy today's story, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the channel. So, thanks for watching the Whiteleyverse, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone.